In the quiet corner of your hallway, or perhaps tucked behind a dusty pile of books on your desk, sits a small plastic box. It has a series of green lights that blink with a rhythmic, almost soothing persistence, signaling that all is well in your digital world. To you, it is simply the source of your Wi-Fi, the invisible tether that connects your smartphone, your laptop, and your gaming console to the vast expanses of the internet. But in the deepening shadows of the global landscape, that unassuming device has become the most dangerous open door in your life. We often think of cyber warfare as something happening in sterile server rooms in distant lands. But the reality is much more intimate. The front line of the next great conflict isn't a desert. It is your living room, and the weapon is already plugged into your wall. A massive surge in what experts call router-based cyber warfare is currently sweeping across the globe like an invisible tide. This isn't just about individual hackers trying to steal a password. It is a coordinated, large-scale effort to hijack everyday home devices and forge them into invisible digital armies. Leading this charge are sophisticated state-sponsored hacking groups, most notably the entity known as Volt Typhoon. This group, along with decentralized AI-driven cartels, is not looking for your credit card number as their primary objective. Instead, they are looking for infrastructure. They are targeting millions of unsuspecting users to turn their personal hardware into soldiers for a war the users don't know is being fought. These hijacked routers form what is known as a botnet, a collective hive mind of zombie devices controlled by an antagonist thousands of miles away. The battlefield has shifted. It used to be that only high-security servers and government databases were under constant siege. Today, every home, every gaming setup, and every small business is a high-value target. Whether you are a professional gamer or a small business owner, your router is a goldmine for these predators. This is happening right now, at this very moment. Major intelligence agencies, including the FBI in the United States and the GCHQ in the United Kingdom, have recently issued urgent red alerts regarding firmware vulnerabilities. These warnings are not for IT professionals alone. They are for every person who relies on a wireless connection. They point to a future where our basic tools are turned against us without our knowledge. Why have routers become the ultimate silent weapon? The answer is simple and terrifying. Routers are the perfect hosts. They are the only devices in our homes that are effectively always on 24 hours a day. Unlike your phone or your computer, which you might restart or update regularly, your router is rarely touched. It sits at the intersection of all your private data, acting as the gatekeeper for every piece of information that enters or leaves your home. This human habit of neglect makes them incredibly vulnerable. Before we continue into the mechanics of how this digital parasite enters your home, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Your awareness is the first layer of defense in this silent global war. Imagine a map of a quiet neighborhood late at night. One by one, every house begins to glow with an ominous, pulsing red light. To the naked eye, everything seems normal. But in the digital realm, every single house has been enlisted into a global botnet. You might notice a slight lag while playing a competitive game or a sudden drop in video quality. You probably blame your service provider or a glitch, but the truth could be far more sinister. Your router might be busy attacking a foreign government's power grid or flooding a hospital's network. We have long considered ourselves the users of the internet, but in this new era, our own devices are being used against the internet. This is exactly how the silent parasite enters your home. To understand how we reach this point, we must look at the evolution of the hardware itself. In the early days of the digital age, the router was a humble bridge, a simple electronic signal splitter that did little more than translate data for your PC. It was a passive tool. Today, it has evolved into a sophisticated gateway. It is the central nervous system of the modern household, managing everything from smart appliances to encrypted cryptocurrency wallets. This increased complexity has come at a steep price, an exponentially larger surface for attack. Every new feature is a potential crack in the armor. This leads to the concept of the invisible parasite. Unlike a virus on your computer, which might trigger a security alert, router malware lives in the firmware. This is the device's brain, the low-level code that tells the hardware how to function. When groups like Volt Typhoon or AI-driven cartels infect the firmware, they aren't just visiting, they are moving in. They sit beneath the operating system, invisible to standard antivirus scans. Because they exist at this foundational level, they can survive reboots. The parasite becomes part of the host, feeding on its power while remaining hidden in the shadows of the code. Gamers are particularly prized targets. If you are a gamer, you likely invested in a high-performance router for the lowest possible latency. These devices are powerful, equipped with advanced processors that rival entry-level computers. For a hacker, your high-end gaming router is a Ferrari idling with the keys in the ignition. Your always-on, high-bandwidth connection provides the perfect engine for a botnet to deliver massive payloads of data to a target without you noticing a significant dip in performance. The attacker doesn't want your data as much as they want your speed and stability. The core of the problem, however, is human nature. Nearly 80% of users never change the default administrative passwords. We are talking about admin and password, the digital equivalent of leaving your front door wide open with a neon sign that says "Welcome." Furthermore, firmware updates are rarely automatic and even more rarely performed manually. This creates an environment where a device remains vulnerable to known exploits for years, simply because the owner never thought to check for a software update on a box that seems to be working fine. We trust the hardware to be secure, but that trust is often misplaced. We saw the devastating potential of this neglect during the rise of the Mirai botnet. It proved that 1 million weak devices, cameras, toasters, and routers could be harnessed to take down the strongest websites. Mirai didn't need sophisticated tools. It simply scanned for devices using default credentials. Once found, it enslaved them. The resulting digital army crippled major sections of the internet's infrastructure, showing that the collective power of our dumb home devices could become a weapon of global disruption. It proved that 1 million small holes could sink the largest ship. This vulnerability is exacerbated by a widening tech gap. Manufacturers prioritize connection speed and low price points over security by design. To stay competitive, they often push products to market with zero-day vulnerabilities. These flaws can remain open for the entire lifespan of the device. Imagine a night watchman hired to protect a bank vault. He is equipped with the best sensors, but he has fallen fast asleep. Meanwhile, the vault door is not just unlocked, it has been removed. This is the state of the average home router today, a powerful sentinel that is unconscious while the digital world moves around it. Close your eyes and envision a futuristic city at night. Beneath the streets, the massive pipes carrying the internet are leaking a dark, oily fluid. This fluid is your data, your private conversations and financial records, seeping into the soil while you sleep. The infrastructure is failing because it has been repurposed by a silent force that thrives in our missing daily digital security habits and daily behaviors. The evolution of the threat has moved beyond the hobbyist hacker in a basement to the cold, calculating efficiency of the digital brain. Today, groups like Volt Typhoon and decentralized AI-driven cartels are not manually searching for entry points. Instead, they deploy advanced artificial intelligence to perform the heavy lifting of global reconnaissance. This AI acts as a tireless scout, scanning millions of routers across the globe every single second. It does not sleep, it does not hesitate, and it does not make mistakes. It searches specifically for that one microscopic crack in the code, a single unpatched vulnerability, or an outdated firmware version that has been forgotten by the user. This automated exploitation is a relentless process of trial and error occurring 24 hours a day without human intervention. The AI tries every possible combination of exploits, cycling through thousands of known weaknesses until it finds a match. Once a vulnerability is identified, the hijacking process begins with clinical precision. It starts with the silent discovery of an outdated device. The AI fingerprints the router, determining its exact make, model, and software version. This is the moment the unlocked front door is first noticed. Next comes the injection phase. The AI pushes a silent script into the device's memory. This script is often small, lightweight, and specifically designed to leave no trace in the traditional logs that an average user might check. This code does not crash the router or cause it to reboot. Instead, it settles quietly into the firmware, effectively rewriting the device's basic instructions. From that moment on, your home gateway is no longer yours. It has been integrated into a global hive mind, a vast botnet controlled by a decentralized command and control server. This device, which you bought to connect your family to the world, is now a loyal, invisible soldier in a digital army, waiting for instructions. The implications of this compromise are profound because the router serves as the ultimate gatekeeper of your digital life. Every message you send, every login credential you type, and every credit card number you enter for an online purchase must pass through this gate. If the gatekeeper is compromised, the attacker sees everything that flows through the system. While modern encryption like HTTPS provides a layer of protection, a compromised router can perform sophisticated man-in-the-middle attacks, downgrade security protocols, or capture vital metadata that reveals your habits, your schedule, and your financial identity. The router sits at the perfect vantage point to monitor the flow of life within a household, turning your private intimacy into actionable intelligence for a global cartel. Furthermore, these hijacked routers form what security experts call a shadow network. By routing their malicious traffic through thousands of legitimate home connections, state-sponsored actors create a digital labyrinth that is nearly impossible for authorities to navigate. When an attack is launched against a government database or a critical power grid, the trail does not lead back to a military office in a foreign capital. It leads back to a quiet suburb or a business office. This constant obfuscation makes the work of agencies like the FBI and GCHQ incredibly difficult, as they are forced to peel back thousands of layers of innocent zombie devices to find the true source of the aggression. Modern tactics have shifted from immediate theft to long-term pre-positioning. This is perhaps the most chilling aspect of the landscape. Hackers are no longer interested in just stealing a password and leaving. Instead, they seek to remain hidden for years inside your network. They are burying themselves deep within the infrastructure, waiting for a specific kill command that might not come for months. This is about preparing the battlefield for a future conflict, ensuring that when the time comes, they can flip a switch and disable the connectivity that modern society depends on to function. Visualize code flowing like a river, with a glowing AI eye watching for a single ripple. That ripple is your connection, and the eye is waiting to strike the moment you let your guard down, turning your own hardware into a weapon against your world. When the signal is finally given, these millions of dormant routers awaken simultaneously, shedding their passivity to become a synchronized engine of destruction. This is the digital army in action, a force capable of crushing the foundations of our online world. When headlines report that gaming servers like the PlayStation Network or Xbox Live have crashed during peak holiday seasons, we often assume a simple technical glitch. In reality, it is often a coordinated assault launched from the very living rooms of the users themselves. A high-end gaming router, prized for its low latency and massive bandwidth, becomes a powerful siege engine when hijacked. It floods a target with a tidal wave of artificial traffic so immense that no server, regardless of its strength, can survive the deluge. These same tactics are being refined for global stock markets, where milliseconds of downtime can erase billions in value, turning a quiet afternoon into a financial catastrophe triggered by a fleet of unsuspecting home devices. The true horror of this silent weapon effect lies in its absolute invisibility. You do not receive a notification when your router is drafted into a cyber war. Instead, you notice the consequences much later, and often in ways that seem unrelated. It starts with a mysterious slowdown in your streaming speed or a slight delay in your smart lights responding to a command. By the time you realize something is wrong, the damage is already done. Your bank account may have been drained through intercepted login tokens, or your local power grid may have flickered because a critical substation was overwhelmed by traffic originating from your neighborhood. In recent case studies, state-sponsored hackers have even employed a scorched earth policy. When they fear detection, they remotely brick the devices, overwriting the core firmware with junk data. This permanently disables the router, turning it into a useless piece of plastic. This is not just a nuisance. For a small business or a remote worker, it is an immediate termination of their digital lifeline, designed solely to cover the tracks of a retreating digital cartel. Beyond these external attacks, the compromised router facilitates a more intimate form of intrusion: identity theft 2.0. As the central nervous system of the modern home, the router is privy to the habits of every resident. It knows exactly when you are home based on when your smartphone connects to the Wi-Fi. It monitors who you talk to via smart speakers, which often leak metadata that reveals your schedule and preferences. It can even map the physical layout of your house by analyzing the signal strength and interference patterns of various IoT devices. In this scenario, the antagonist, whether it be Volt Typhoon or an AI-driven cartel, is a ghost in your walls. They are the silent observer watching your life unfold, waiting for the perfect moment to exploit a vulnerability in your security camera or smart lock, all because the primary gate was left unguarded. The economic toll is staggering and continues to climb. Millions of dollars in productivity are lost every hour when critical networks go dark, and governments are currently spending billions trying to clean the web of these persistent infections. Yet, the infection grows faster than the cure. It is estimated that 1 in 5 home routers is currently functioning as a zombie node, an active participant in a global botnet that the owner is entirely unaware of. This leads us toward a digital Pearl Harbor, a coordinated strike where the attack comes from within our own borders. Imagine a gamer in a dark room, frustrated because his game is lagging. He curses his connection, completely unaware that his high-end setup is currently being used to flood a hospital's network with traffic, preventing doctors from accessing life-saving patient records during a medical crisis. His private haven of digital entertainment has been converted into a weapon of psychological and physical war, and he is unknowingly the one paying the utility bills to power the very assault against society. As the digital landscape darkens under the shadow of persistent threats, a new counterforce is emerging from the chaos. The same artificial intelligence that fuels the expansion of botnets is now being harnessed to build digital immune systems for routers. This is a monumental shift in how we perceive domestic security. We are moving away from the era of static firewalls and toward an age of active, evolving intelligence that monitors your home network in real time. These AI-driven defenders are designed to recognize the subtle deviations in data patterns that signal a sophisticated hijack. If your smart fridge or a Wi-Fi extender suddenly starts communicating with a command and control server in a distant territory at 3 in the morning, the AI immune system identifies this and severs the connection instantly. It isolates the threat before it can pivot to infect the more sensitive parts of the household, such as your computer or encrypted storage drives. We are rapidly approaching a reality where your router no longer just passes traffic. It actively hunts for the silent parasites that attempt to call its firmware home. Government intervention matches the speed of the cyber crisis. Intelligence agencies like the FBI and GCHQ are spearheading a push for security by design laws that would transform the manufacturing process for every device that connects to the web. The era of the default password, the infamous easily guessed admin or 1234, is being legislated out of existence in major jurisdictions. New regulations are starting to mandate that every device shipped from a factory must come with a unique, generated credential that cannot be easily bypassed by the automated scripts of groups like Volt Typhoon. Furthermore, a massive hardware shift is currently underway toward a concept known as confidential computing. In this model, the core processor of the router is locked inside a digital safe, often referred to as a trusted execution environment. This hardware-level security ensures that even if a hacker identifies a flaw in the external software code, they cannot touch the device's internal identity or manipulate its primary functions. It makes the digital soul of the router inaccessible to both the manufacturer and the attacker, creating a hard shell that no software exploit can easily crack. The tech-savvy gamer and the power user now find themselves on the front line of this new defense. As the owners of the most powerful and high-bandwidth hardware in the residential sector, they hold a unique responsibility in the digital ecosystem. If the most informed users do not take the necessary steps to secure their gateways, the population has very little hope of remaining safe. This realization is leading to the adoption of the zero-trust model within the home environment. In this paradigm, the router treats every connected device, from the high-end gaming rig to a cheap smart light bulb, as a potential threat until proven otherwise. No device is trusted by default. Instead, each must continuously prove its integrity to the central hub. This approach turns the home network into a series of isolated compartments. It ensures that a breach in one minor, neglected IoT device cannot cascade into a total network takeover, preventing the lateral movement that AI-driven cartels rely on to expand their botnets. However, these advancements bring us to a crossroad, the debate between total security and individual privacy. There are proposals for cyber passports for connected devices, where every router and gateway must be registered and authenticated on a level to prevent them from becoming anonymous nodes in a shadow network. While such a system would drastically reduce the effectiveness of state-sponsored actors, It also raises fears regarding government overreach and the potential for constant surveillance of habits. This leads to a complex, multi-sided perspective on who truly bears the burden of our digital protection. Is it the manufacturer's fault for flooding the market with cheap, vulnerable hardware to maximize profit margins? Or is it the user's fault for ignoring updates and treating their security with a sense of complacency? The answer likely lies in the middle. But as the stakes of the cyber arms race continue to rise, the luxury of debate is being replaced by the necessity of action. Visualize a digital shield forming over a quiet neighborhood house, glowing with a steady, protective blue light. As a relentless barrage of red hacker arrows, automated scripts sent by distant, decentralized AI cartels strikes the barrier, they are deflected harmlessly into the digital void. This is the goal of the modern cyber defense rise, to transform every home from a vulnerable target into a fortress of data integrity. But this shield is not a passive feature. It requires a conscious effort from the human firewall to stay one step ahead of the curve. The evolution of the internet has reached a point where the gate is no longer just a luxury, but a critical asset that must be defended with the same vigor as the physical doors to our homes. The battle for the gateway is not merely a technical struggle, it is a fundamental shift in how we exist in a connected digital world. The reality check is far more immediate than most care to admit. This is not a distant movie plot or a hypothetical scenario debated in windowless rooms by intelligence officers. As you sit in the glow of your screen, your router is likely being scanned by an automated AI bot at this very second. The decentralized AI-driven cartels and state-sponsored groups like Volt Typhoon do not sleep, nor do they tire. Their scripts are relentless, pinging millions of IP addresses per hour, searching for that one unpatched vulnerability or that single default password that was never changed. This silent, invisible war is happening in the background of our daily lives, hidden behind the mundane activity of streaming videos, sending emails, and joining video calls. The front line has moved from the high-security data centers of the world directly into the hallways of our homes. And the first line of defense is no longer a government agency, but the user themselves. Becoming a human firewall starts with simple, deliberate steps that transform your home from a target into a fortress. It begins with the realization that your hardware is not a set-it-and-forget-it appliance, but a living part of a global infrastructure. Updating your firmware is the most critical ritual. These updates are the digital patches that close the zero-day vulnerabilities discovered by the FBI and GCHQ. Beyond updates, changing your DNS settings to a secure, encrypted provider can prevent your traffic from being intercepted or redirected to malicious clones of the websites you trust. Perhaps the most effective strategy for the modern household is the implementation of a guest network. By isolating smart light bulbs, cheap cameras, and other vulnerable IoT devices on a secondary network, you ensure that even if a hacker gains a foothold through a poorly secured gadget, they remain trapped in a digital quarantine. They are unable to move laterally toward your primary computer, your banking credentials, or your personal data. As artificial intelligence becomes more deeply integrated into our daily existence, the gate, your router, becomes the most valuable asset you own. It is the filter through which all your digital interactions pass, and in the coming years, its role will only expand. We are entering an era where the gatekeeper must be as intelligent as the intruder. The connection to the future is not just about faster speeds or lower latency. It is about the integrity of the data that defines who we are. If you want to stay ahead of the curve in this rapidly evolving landscape of technology, AI, and digital safety, you must remain informed and vigilant. The war for the gateway is silent and constant, but you do not have to be a passive victim of its progression. Engaging with these security practices and understanding the mechanics of the threat is the only way to ensure your private life remains truly private. There is a profound philosophical irony in the history of the internet. We spent decades of intense labor and billions of dollars in investment trying to connect the entire world, breaking down the barriers of distance and time to bring everyone together. Now, we must spend the coming decades trying to protect those very connections from the monsters we inadvertently invited into the house. The goal was total connectivity, but the cost was total vulnerability. We have built a world where every home is a node in a global brain, yet we forgot to give that brain an immune system. The transition from the era of connectivity to the era of protection is the defining challenge of our generation. Next time you pass through your hallway and see that small green light blinking on your router, do not view it as a mere sign of an active internet connection. Pause and ask yourself, who is it talking to? Is it serving your needs, or is it secretly working for a shadow network on the other side of the planet? The battle for your home is being fought in the pulses of that tiny LED. In the silence of the night, the green glow might seem friendly, but without your intervention, it is only a matter of time before that light turns an ominous, pulsing red. The screen fades to black, leaving only the memory of that warning light. This is not the future. This is now.